Hi, I'm Peter Roper, and I'm here with another serving of Potluck Politics, and we're lucky to have Natalie Burfoot Billing, who is the chairman of the Democratic Town Committee in Groton. And we're going to talk about getting involved in Groton. So thank you for your service and for sharing your experience with us here.
You're welcome. Happy to be here, Peter.
If you could talk a little bit about how Groton politics and government works, that would be good. And
I can.
And how many years you've been involved?
Sure. So I've been involved for over 30 years now, maybe coming up on 40 years.
It sneaks up on you.
It does sneak up on you, and it's hard to believe every time I say it. I'm like, that can't possibly be true. I fact check myself, but I do think it's true. But I got involved back when my son was young. People asked me to run for the Board of Education. I had never intended to become involved in Groton town government, which is what I prefer to call it. That my involvement, I do it because I love the town. I do it because I'm a native. I grew up here, and I care a lot about what happens here. So I got on the Board of Education, served for a few years, then decided, oh, really, where I needed to be was the town council, because I learned you can't do a lot on the Board of Education if the town council just cuts the budget every year, which was what was happening. So then I ran for town council, got on the town council, served for a few years, and then said, okay, that takes a lot of time. That's a lot of work. I'm ready to step back a little, and I think it's a good thing to have new people get involved. So then I went on to the RTM for 6 years. So I've done all three bodies in town, which is really valuable to have experienced.
And it's a little bit different order than normally people would probably start with the RTM.
That's right.
That's where I first got involved.
That's where a lot of people start.
And then you might move up the Board of Ed and the council, but you went kind of the other direction.
I went the opposite direction of most people. And you know, one of the things that I love to do, one of the reasons I stay involved, is I like to encourage other people to get involved. I don't think people begin to understand how many people it takes to fill all the elected offices in town, but also to fill all the boards and commissions. It takes like 200 people, and they're all volunteers. But because I like to encourage new people to get involved, something I've kind of developed is a way of explaining Groton town government to people. So I have a little visual I use. And
Groton is confusing because it has a lot of subdivisions and different government bodies.
Is very confusing.
It's not a typical town.
It is very confusing to people, even people who've been involved for some time. But the way I like to explain it to people is this big circle. This is Groton. But within the town of Groton, there's a city of Groton. That's 2 of our voting districts. There's 7 voting districts in town. But then there's this little subdivision, Groton Long Point, and a subdivision, Noank. And then there's Mystic.
Mystic is a good one, because it's Mystic in Stonington and Mystic in Groton.
Exactly.
No one understands that Mystic is really just a fire district.
Exactly.
And a village.
When people say, oh, I live in Mystic, if you're talking government, you really have to ask, well, which side of the river do you live on? The Groton side of the river or the Stonington side of the river? But everybody in this big circle pays taxes to the town of Groton. And that's what's important for people to understand. And the school system serves children from all of these areas of Groton. And the town has a mayor and a town council of 9 people. But the mayor's a volunteer, not paid a penny, because we have a paid town manager.
The council's volunteer too.
Councils all volunteer too.
Yeah,
Yes.
they all do it for the goodness of their heart.
And out of caring about the town. And then the city also has a council and a mayor. The difference is that the mayor in the city is a paid position. Because in the city, the mayor is kind of like the town manager over here. So that's just kind of one way, a big broad brush way of trying to understand this government we have in Groton. And we may come back to this as we're talking about other things.
And one example is zoning and planning is in the town.
Correct.
And the city has their own zoning and planning.
City
and
has their own zoning.
Noank has their own zoning.
Groton Long Point has their own zoning. Noank has their own zoning. Exactly. Mystic is under the town's planning and zoning.
Right.
The Groton side of Mystic. Stonington side of Mystic
They
is
have their
under
own thing,
Stonington's planning and zoning. Exactly.
Okay, well, we've probably confused people enough, but I think that was helpful because it is part of what makes Groton easy to get involved, because there are a lot of different possibilities, and it's also confusing because it is a lot of different subdivisions and governments and commissions and advisory boards. So
Exactly.
So let's continue on then.
Sure.
You told us how you got in. You did make a distinction between political and government. Just briefly talk about that.
Sure. So people often say to me, oh, I'm involved in the politics in Groton. I prefer to say really at the local level, it's not political. There's not a lot of political things between the members who are elected on the Board of Education, the Town Council, the RTM. For the most part, once people are elected, they often don't even remember. Is that person sitting next to them a Democrat or a Republican? So I prefer to say that I'm not involved because I'm political. I'm involved because I care about this place I live. And I like to be involved in the community. I like to know who the people are that are making decisions. I like to have a little bit more insight into what's happening and why it's happening that way. And it's really hard to have that unless you get involved and are talking to the people. Yeah.
I always say that democracy is not a spectator sport.
Very much.
And you really need to get involved in your democracy for it to work right. So the politics of it sort of make it happen, but it's important for democracy to do it and get involved.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And it's actually a benefit. It's a benefit. It's a way to learn about the town, and your opinion counts. So it counts more if you're actually involved instead of just on the sidelines griping.
Exactly.
So what do you say to people when they ask you, why should I get involved? You've already mentioned a little bit of it, but tell us a little more about that.
You know, I say several things when people say, why should I get involved? Some of the things that we've already talked about, but also if you like to meet people from all over town, then getting involved on the RTM, for instance, our representative town meeting. Groton's one of a few towns left that has a good-sized RTM.
It's probably important to point out that that was sort of a remnant of the town actually just having a whole meeting when everybody comes and decides issues, which some towns still do that for some issues.
Stonington still does that, Ledyard still does that.
And it seems like it really does, in some ways, make the government harder to work. The representative town meeting is people from each district of the town, so it is representative. And it's Republicans and Democrats as a requirement of a minority representation, so it's a pretty good cross-section. And they kind of had the last word on financial issues. So it's actually an interesting body. And the council tends to be more direct and have a little more control over some things, but the RTM does have the last say.
The way I like to explain it is the council is more involved with the day-to-day operations of the town.
Yeah.
The RTM's main main job is
Budget.
approving the budget after the town council has already acted on the budget. But exactly, a reason for someone to get involved is to have some say, to have some influence. What are we spending our money on? Are we spending too much money? Should we be spending more money on one thing? I got involved because I wanted to advocate for more spending for education. My son was just coming up into the schools, and as I learned about some of the things the school has and some of the things it didn't have, I was very concerned. So people can get involved to have a voice, to be more informed. Obviously, serving on the Board of Education or the town council, it's much more time intensive. People have to really be willing to attend at least one meeting a week, sometimes much more than that. And all of these, again, are volunteer. People are not paid a penny for any of this. So we're really very lucky when there are people offering to get involved. But there's ways for people to get involved who don't want to give as much time. They want to get a little involved. There are boards and commissions in our town, and we need 100 people, if you can believe that, to fill all the boards and commission seats. Some of those are pretty time intensive also, but some of them meet once a month. Some of them meet, I happen to chair one that just meets 4 times a year for an hour. So if someone wants to help the town, but they only want to give a little bit of time, there's a way for them to do that.
And there's a lot of different topics: libraries, parks and rec, golf course, senior center,
Exactly.
planning and zoning, which I was involved with, wetlands, historic district. I mean, almost any topic, there is some advisory group and someone that's important that's working on it. And
Exactly.
you can get involved.
That's really the message to people is, right now, we're just starting the process of looking for people who'll run for office this November. In the next 5 months will be an intensive time of finding people who want to run for town council, Board of Education, and the RTM, the representative town meeting. So part of the reason I wanted to be here was just to start spreading the message to people who live in Groton. We need you. Come and be involved. Get it. Be informed.
And we are on the nominating committee of the Democratic Party, so we have to find Democrats to fill a lot of positions.
Correct.
So,
We're looking for Democrats, but if there's someone who's not a Democrat, but they want to get involved, they can still reach out really to any of the elected officials and ask, well, how do I get involved? Or they can reach out to me. I'll direct people to who they can contact.
and the town clerk's another person you can always talk to because they
Absolutely.
can fit you into where it would work.
Absolutely.
Okay, why have you stayed involved? For me, it's like a great civics class because you learn, like you're saying, you learn about what's happening in town, and you have some influence, and you sort of get a better feel for the people, the places, and you just know a lot more. But what keeps you going, or did keep you going when you were actually on the government side of it?
You know, the number one reason that I stay involved is because of the other people who are involved. I'm a people person. I like meeting people. I like meeting people from all across town, people I wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to meet. So being involved in this way has allowed that. I just know a lot of people around town. But as you were saying, I also like when I run into someone and they say, hey, what's the story with this? What's going on? Why this? I have some background, some information and understanding about why. I like being involved in my community, and I like having the opportunity. I know who to call if there's something that's an issue.
Yep.
I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Mr. Burt, hey, Mr. And talk to the people and get more information or provide some input. I like that. I'm guessing there are a lot of other people out there who would like that.
I would think.
They just haven't necessarily gotten involved yet.
Yeah. And really there's a spot for everybody, because we have to be Democrats, but there's also spots for Republicans and even unaffiliated voters
Absolutely.
who are not registered with any party can also be involved.
Absolutely. You know, when I first got involved, Peter, there wasn't as much opportunity for people who were unaffiliated with any party. They're actually half the voters in town.
Right.
But at that time, the people who were in control, if you will, were not as interested in making it possible for them to get involved. I'm one of a number of people who's worked to say that doesn't make any sense. And so we've created much more opportunity for people who are, they often call themselves independents.
Yes.
But they need to be a little careful.
Misnomer.
In Connecticut, it's a misnomer, because in Connecticut, there's an independent party, but really it's a branch of the Republican Party. So people call themselves independents, but really what they are is unaffiliated.
I can call myself an independent, but I'm a Democrat.
You're an independent-minded Democrat.
Yes. Yes.
Free thinking.
And I think it's important to have the parties, because the parties tend to take it more seriously to find people to get involved. And without that, it would be sort of haphazard, and not as many people would get involved, I'm sure.
That's a really important
point. Because you'd have to, the town clerk or somebody would have to start really advertising or looking for people or trying to find people.
It's a really important point. Some people
and the party tends to be more citizen-oriented and can find people. So
some people have kind of a negative attitude about the parties, and they don't understand that, again, at the local level, we're talking local, it's very different nationally, but locally, the parties exist to help create opportunity for people to get involved. We're the ones who go out and talk to people and say, hey, we do things like this. Say, hey, come and get involved. We need you. Absolutely.
And I guess it does take a village really to make this all work, and that's kind of the nice thing about democracy is people can get involved. And in this era when we're actually worried about our democracy, it's important for people to realize you got to do it.
It takes a huge village. Again, 200 people. We need 200 volunteers in Groton to fill all the boards and commissions. And if both parties are going to run full slates in the election this November to really give voters a choice, then we have to be able to, each party has to find 45 people willing to run for office. And we support them in doing that. People are often intimidated at first, as I was. I said, I'm not qualified to run for the Board of Education. It took me a while to learn that actually I was quite qualified. But I think a lot of people feel that way. It's intimidating. And so part of our function is to support people who kind of want to do this, but they're scared and they're unsure. They don't know how to go about it. And that's what keeps me involved.
It's great. It's good that people do it.
I like it.
Talk a little bit about your final message here and what involvement means. And
so, I think whatever someone's interest is in the town, we can help them find a way to contribute. They may not know all the different opportunities there are, but we can help them find a way to be involved. And we're a source of information. We talked a little bit right before coming on the air just about the fact people may not know that there's a special election coming up, right?
Yep.
February 25th, just for a part of the town. People who live in part of the city,
Yep.
called District 3, and people who live over here around Navy Housing, and people who vote at the school administration building. There's a special election for their state
Yeah.
representative.
We were lucky to have Christine Conley was that representative,
Exactly.
part of Groton and part of New London,
Ex-
and she has been bumped up to a higher position.
She's going to go be a judge for the worker compensation
But
system.
it's important because Groton does have 2 representatives, and also those representatives have worked closely with the New London representative,
Absolutely.
and it's made a big difference for this couple of communities. Because
Very, very important for the town.
I'm afraid Hartford doesn't always think of Southeast Connecticut as the most important part of the state, and we think it's the most important part of the
That's
state.
right. That's
so
right.
this is an important election, and
It is.
we have a good person running who's been involved since he was 14, I think he's told me. And he's young, which is really important to get involved. So
Yes, yes.
hopefully that will go well. But people should find out and get out there and vote. It's not expected because it's a special election, so
That's the
February
thing.
25th. And there'll be early voting, and you do absentee voting, so there's lots of ways to do it.
Right,
And
people can apply right
and,
now for an
you know.
absentee ballot if they're going to be out of town on vacation that week.
Right,
But
right.
there, as you say, they will be early voting at Fitch Middle School, or what we all still call Fitch Middle School, for 4 days before that election. So hopefully the voters will get out there and
I think we're going to have
participate.
your information on the screen so they can call you, or they can get a hold of
Absolutely.
the town clerk in Groton Town Hall. That person, she will help you.
They can also call the voter registration office. They have the names of myself. Yep.
And I guess I would add here that the town only works when representatives, when the citizens actually get involved and represent the rest of the citizens. So it's really important.
It's
to
certainly
have
the
people
best thing for the town.
And you know, it can be a little bit of time or a lot of time, but I was on the planning commission for 24 years before it became planning and zoning, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And it did involve time. Sometimes when there was a lot of applications, a lot of things going on, we were there till 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
I was still working, self-employed, but we luckily put on kind of a rule that you couldn't go after 10 o'clock with new business, and I
Yeah.
stuck to that because it was a lot of time to be involved on issues and then have to get up to work the next day.
And maybe that's another message here is for people to appreciate these people who do
Yeah.
serve in all these positions. You know, you're not always going to agree with them on everything, but that's why you need to come get involved. But appreciate that they're volunteering tremendous amounts
Yeah.
of time.
Yeah.
And they're doing that just because they care about their neighbors and about Groton.
And it is really satisfying to get involved.
It is.
It's a good feeling to have some influence and to find out how things are working and hopefully make them better. So encourage it. Okay, we have a little bit of time if you've got any other issues that we missed. Did we miss anything?
Let's see, did we miss anything else? I think for me, maybe the main thing would be just circling back to that idea that if there are people out there who are a little bit interested in getting involved,
Yeah.
but they're scared, they're unsure, they feel intimidated by the idea, that I encourage them to call me, or call the mayor, or call one of the town councilors, someone on the RTM that they know, and talk to us, and know that the whole reason the parties exist, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party at the local level, is to support other people who want to get involved to make that possible,
Yeah.
because it is scary and overwhelming the first time if you thought you had to do it all by yourself,
Yeah.
but you
And
don't.
At the Democratic Town Committee, we welcome people to come and observe and to talk to people, and it's a way
Absolutely,
you could find people that may know something about something you're interested in, so it could
absolutely.
help you slip into it.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
it's not intimidating. It's pretty easy when you've got opinions and you've got a brain and you have a love for your community, which all of us do.
Absolutely.
So,
And whether your issue is you care about the schools, or you care about the parks, or you care about the senior center and services to seniors, you know, there's a way to be involved and make a difference in the area that matters to you.
I first came to Groton and I got involved with an open space group that eventually got a referendum, and $3 million was appropriated to buy open space. And after that, Frank Haggerty, who was involved, and he was on I think he was the mayor at one point, but he asked me if I would like to get involved in something else. And then I got on the RTM, ran for the RTM
Yeah.
in 2 different districts, which was really a good experience because you got to meet lots of people from town. It's set up with committees on different topics, so you can pick a committee you're interested in
Absolutely.
and learn about that a little more deeply and
Mm-hmm.
present it to the rest of the RTM. And from there, I got involved in planning.
Mm-hmm.
It was all good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So,
And I served on the Board of Ed with Frank Haggerty.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was a Board of Ed member with
That's
me,
right.
yeah, back
Yeah.
then. And one of the really valuable things about having served on all 3 bodies, it's interesting. When I first got involved, my experience was each body, the members would sort of talk about the other body, like, ooh, they were the bad. You know, for the Board of Ed, the council was bad, or for the council, the Board of Ed was bad, or for the council and the Board of Ed, sometimes the RTM was bad. And I, after having served on all 3 bodies, I had a very different idea, which was none of them are bad. They're all good, working hard, and they work better when they work cooperatively and try to understand each other. They do bring different points of view because the RTM, as you know, is a 40-member body. The Board of Ed and the Town Council are just 9 members. It's very different when you serve on a 40-member body versus a 9-member body.
Yeah.
So I really loved my time on the RTM.
I just thought of somebody that was on the RTM with me, and he was a Republican. I'm a Democrat, but he loved Groton, and he actually came up with the phrase, "Groton is great," and that was his theme throughout the time I served with him. But you know, go for it. Go for it.
Come get involved.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Appreciate you volunteering your time.
You're welcome.
And making Groton better.
Thank you
And
for
also
having me.
sharing your story with us and hopefully inspiring somebody else to get involved because it is important. I want to thank our viewers for watching. Please consider making a donation to SCCTV. This is your digital town hall. And I'm Peter Roper for Potluck Politics. Get informed, get involved, and be well.